We're going to take live calls in a little bit, but I figured since John only been on once before, we'd talk a little bit about your history, your kind of path from wherever to how we got here.
Okay, yeah. Unlike most of the hosts on the show, I don't have a deconversion story because I was raised. I was never taught by somebody that I trust to believe in a God, so I've never been a believer. That's still kind of unusual among most atheists in this culture, anyway.
Wait a generation.
Yeah. We could see something different there, but. My older brother was baptized Roman Catholic to please the Italian grandparents, and I was baptized Greek Orthodox to please the Greek grandparents, and that was kind of the extent of our religious upbringing until I was about 4, and my brother started first grade, and he came home crying one day because one of the kids in his class said, "If you don't believe in Jesus, you're going to hell," and that scared him. And my mom said, I really want to give these kids some kind of religious identity to try to insulate them from this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And we grew up in Albuquerque, so that's not really, Bible Belt country by any means, but, it was still there. So she went off and joined the Unitarian church in Albuquerque.
Sure.
And back in the 60s, Unitarian churches, and every church kind of has its own flavor, but especially in the West in the 60s, it was mostly humanistic, and a lot of them still are. Unitarian churches, and maybe next time I'm on, I can kind of give a little spiel on UU because we get some email about that.
Well, what we can say is that there's a lot of stuff going on right now in the atheist movement, including some things that have been identified as atheist church. There's in the UK, there's the I forget the name of it, but there's basically it's a gathering of non-believers. And my friend Jerry DeWitt, who's been on the show before, has actually had something that other people have dubbed atheist church, although he's not really a fan of it. But it's similar to UU churches, except that UU churches kind of tend to be open to all kinds of ideas, and some of them people there are going to be believers of some stripe and some are not.
Right.
And these things that others are putting together are specifically kind of churches for non-believers, and primarily they're there to serve a need within the atheist community, because there are a lot of people who are leaving religions, who are losing their social network groups, and some people actually really like and enjoy the let's gather together and let's sing and
right.
have kind of a communal activity, and they miss that. And for those people, great, enjoy whatever you're enjoying. But here in Austin, we've actually used the UU Church for events and stuff. And right. I know. Anyway, you can continue with
okay.
your take.
Yeah. So in a lot of communities, atheists do end up in UU churches, especially if there's no real active atheist group, because they want the community. And so I was raised in that church, and I went to Sunday school there, and more often than not, we would, because no kid really likes going to Sunday school, so my brother and I would ditch class and go off and hunt for lizards. But in any event, when I was a teenager, that's kind of when I fell in with the group there, the high school group, and that was just a community of kids my age who were very accepting. And I was coming off of a really hard time. My best friend was killed in a car accident when I was 15, and I was feeling a little lost, and I just found this group of people who just accepted me unconditionally, and that really hooked me in there. So I went to the UU church until I was graduated from high school, and then like a lot of UU kids, you start college and you kind of stop going to church. Not just UU.
Yeah, well,
kids in any denomination kind of stop doing that for the most part.
Yeah.
And then they get a little older and they get married and they have kids, and then they start going back to church. That's kind of universal. So and we did that. We actually, my ex-wife and I were founding members of one of the local Austin UU churches, Live Oak UU. I was real involved with them for many years. And then a guy from this new group called the Atheist Community of Austin came and spoke at our church one day and was telling us about the group, and I thought, this is really good. I want to support Community for Atheists, even though I'm involved with this church. So I joined the ACA and kind of was a non-participating member for many years because I wanted to support that. And, life happens, and I ended up leaving the church for personal reasons. I went through a divorce, and I was already a member of this group, and I said, hey, I'm going to start coming to some of the events, and showed up at the TV show and said, hey, I know how to work cameras, and got involved that way. And so that was in 2006, and I've kind of been working as crew on the show ever since. And, this is my second time here on the other side of the table, but glad to be here.
And it's interesting because you say, 2006, and I've been doing the show since March of 2005, although I didn't actually take over as host until, I think, 2006. But my memory is such that John's just always been here. So, I mean, and that's, that's pretty much the way things work around here. Granted, I'm here, I'm supposed to be here three out of 4 weeks, with Russell taking one, but Russell's been filling in a lot because I've had to travel for stuff, and there's 5 co-hosts that we rotate through and various guests. But there's a handful of people whose names pop up at the end who are here like clockwork pretty much every week for as many years as I've been doing the show. And they're the ones that actually make the show happen. I just sit out here and talk. So it's good to have you out here with us.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Is there anything else you wanted to kind of touch on, or just dive into calls?
We could dive into calls, I think.
Cool.